The Sith Order has been defeated. The Republic has experienced over half a century of peace, but the galaxy is still full of danger. The Jedi Master Barnabas Vim encounters a relic called an Echo Stone, which has the power to enhance Force abilities. The Echo Stone begins corrupting the planet Angkor, so Vim breaks it into 3 pieces. He and his Padawan hide them across the galaxy. Barnabas continues his study of Echo Stones and discovers an old Jedi friend named Tarek Borin using one to protect a planet in need. Although his intentions are pure, the stone's power slowly consumes Borin, but Vim convinces the man to give the stone up. Tarek tells Barnabas of a mysterious planet where the stones originated. Vim seeks it out, sending one final garbled transmission to the Jedi Order. Olivia and Alicia Zeveron are born. They're both Force-sensitive and discovered by the Jedi Order, but only Olivia is considered to be strong enough in the Force for training, leaving Alicia alone and bitter against the Jedi. An Akrukian Jedi youngling named Porter Ingle becomes friends with one of his peers, a Cage named Barash Sylvain. They come to consider themselves siblings, and their strength in the Force grows with their friendship. Their Jedi Masters separate them, growing concerned over the younglings' bond. The two purposely perform worse until the Jedi allow them to maintain their relationship. Axel Greylark, the son of a prominent political dynasty, stumbles onto a plot to rob the university where he is studying. He assists the thieves, who are led by Alicia Zeveron. Soon after, Axel's father Lexir joins a diplomatic mission with the Jedi but is killed in a trap. Axel falls deeper into destructive patterns, and his relationship with Alicia continues. The Jedi and the Republic create Pathfinder teams to explore and expand the Outer Rim. 2 neighboring planets, Irem and Darano, reignite a generations-long conflict they call the Forever War. On Jedha, a Guardian of the Wills named Tay Surik fails to protect a group of children from a criminal named Ernst Wozo. Surik leaves the Guardians of the Wills and murders Wozo for his crimes. On the planet Dalna, Alicia Zeveron uses her connection with the Force to take control of a cult called the Path of the Open Hand. Ironically, the Path believes any use of the Force is abuse of the natural order. Alicia twists the cult into strong opposition against the Jedi. The galaxy experiences the Great Hyperspace Rush. The Santeca clan and the Graf families make a fortune charting new safe hyperspace lanes across the Outer Rim. New planets are discovered, and the Republic develops diplomatic relations with many of them. The Jedi Order establishes outposts throughout the galaxy. During this time of exploration, hyperspace prospectors named Radicaz Dobbs and Das and Spence Lefbruck discover the mysterious source of the Echo Stones, a world they name Planet X. Dobbs steals a strange purple egg from the surface and strands his partners on the planet Gloam. They are eventually saved by the Jedi. Now Jedi Knights, Porter Ingle and Barash Sylvain work as a team, following the Force where it leads Barash. They travel to the war-torn planet Ganzavor, where Porter battles against a mercenary named General Vice. Barash misinterprets the will of the Force and the intentions of the planet's rulers, leading to violence, tragedy, and Vice's escape. The experience leads her to take a vow to step away from the Jedi Order until she finds confidence in her interpretations once again. Alicia Zeveron now calls herself the Mother of the Path of the Open Hand. She sends her disciples, the Children of the Open Hand, to steal Force relics from several worlds. One of the children, named Yana Rose, successfully steals an artifact called the Rod of Seasons. Radicaz Dobbs brings his strange egg to the Mother, and she becomes enthralled by it. She recruits Dobbs to her cause and takes the egg, which hatches into a horrific monster she is able to control with the Rod of Seasons. When 2 Jedi come to investigate the path, the nameless creature feeds off of their life energy, transforming them into husks. A Jedi named Aslan Rel begins looking into their disappearance. Yana Ro and her cousin Marta take up leadership positions within the path. Marta becomes a spiritual guide, and Yana is given the Rod of Seasons and control over the beast, which comes to be known as the Leveler. On Takodana, a young Jedi Padawan named Sav Malagon runs away from her Jedi temple, seeking adventure with the pirate queen Maz Kanata as she and her crew fight against a rival gang in a battle that leads them to the planet Jedha. The Forever War continues between Irem and Darano. Axel Greylark's mother, Kiong, is one of the 2 Chancellors of the Republic. Although Irem and Darano are not member worlds, she sends Jedi politicians and Axel to lead peace talks, which conclude with a political marriage between the next generation of rulers. At the mother's request, Axel attempts to sabotage the wedding, but he is caught and arrested. The signing of a treaty is proudly announced to be held on Jedha during the world's Festival of Balance. The Mother, the Rose, and several other members of the Path head to Jedha under the guise of joining the Convocation of the Force, a group of various Force religions who gather to share and discuss their philosophies. The Herald of the Path demands the Convocation disband and stop using the Force forever. When he is denied, he incites a riot, and Yana sets the Leveler loose in the Holy City, which spreads fear and panic throughout the crowd. The Mother sabotages the peace talks of Irem and Deranos, sparking further conflict between the two worlds. War breaks out on Jedha, and a Jedi statue called the Final Protector is brought down. The Guardians of the Whills join forces with the Jedi Order to de-escalate the chaos. Tay Surik works with the Jedi Master Vildar Mak as they investigate the Path's true intentions. They find the Herald, Yana, and the Leveler stealing the Rod of Daybreak from a Jedi vault. Tay uses a dark side artifact called the Hand of Cyberus to save Vildar's life, but Yana escapes with the Rod. Combined with the Rod of Seasons, she is able to better control the Leveler. Sav Malagan, Maz Kanata, and her crew take part in the Battle of Jedha, attempting to do their part to calm the fighting. Members of the Path break Axel Greylark out of prison and bring him to their headquarters on Dalna. Marda Ro and several members of the Path of the Open Hand follow the hyperspace trail of Radikaz Dobbs to Planet X. They collect more nameless eggs and barely escape with their lives. Marda loses faith in the Mother and uses her growing influence in the Path to take control of the cult, changing its name to the Path of the Closed Fist. After the Battle of Jedha, several Jedi and the two newly married rulers of Irem and Derano travel to Dalna to hold the Path accountable. The Leveler and the freshly hatched creatures like it feed on more Jedi. The Battle of Dalna is bloody, and both sides are met with heavy losses in what becomes known as the Night of Sorrow. Das Lefbruck teams up with Sky Graf to try to find Planet X again, but they abandon their mission when they learn of the Battle of Dalna and help restore jammed communications around the planet. The armies of Irem and Derano are then able to unite and provide reinforcements to defeat the Path. The Mother attempts to use Axel as a hostage, causing Kiong to resign her position as Chancellor to save her misguided son. Marda Ro kills the Mother and drowns most of the nameless creatures from Planet X. She escapes Dalna along with the Leveler, the Control Rod, and a handful of surviving members of the Path. The Jedi that encountered the Nameless agree to keep the mysterious creatures' existence a secret until they can learn more about them with the blessing of the Grand Master of the Order, Yoda. Aslan Rel witnesses the horror of the Shrieker Ray during the battle, begins to lose his mind, and leaves the Jedi Order to investigate the Nameless on his own. A penitent Axel Greylark returns to prison, accepts his sentence, and rebuilds his relationship with Kiong. Tay Surik is given a seat on the Convocation of the Force, representing Force sensitives with no institutional affiliations. While keeping the peace, he uses the Hand of Cyberus again to enhance his strength, but Vildar convinces him to stop using the dark side. The two eventually fall in love and marry. Over time, Marda Ro's Path of the Closed Fist evolves into a group of marauders calling themselves the Nile. They are led by her descendant, Asgar Ro, who kidnaps a Force-sensitive girl from the Santeca clan named Mari, who is able to use her powers to find secret hyperspace paths through the galaxy. Irem and Derano maintain their tense relationship until a criminal syndicate kidnaps royals from each planet. Both worlds request assistance from the Jedi Order. Two Padawans named Orla Jarini and Comac Vitus develop a friendship while resolving the situation. Irem and Derano finally settle their differences and begin working more closely with the Republic. On the planet Alaris Prime, two Padawans named Ty Yorick and Cleus Terradine sneak into a dark-side shrine. Inside, Cleus is possessed and attacks Ty, who accidentally kills him in self-defense. She flees the Jedi Order in fear of retribution. Asgar Ro is betrayed and killed by his lieutenants and his son Markion, who takes the title of Eye of the Nile for himself. The Chancellor of the Republic, Lina So, begins a series of projects to improve the lives of her citizens that she calls the Great Works. To aid communication in the growing Outer Rim, a space station called Starlight Beacon is built between Irem and Derano. A Padawan named Keeve Trinnis is elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight by her teacher Skier after helping avert a crisis threatening Starlight Beacon. The Nile resist the Republic's expansion and use Mari Santeca's paths to engineer the destruction of a transport as it travels through hyperspace. Its debris emerges into real space at catastrophic speeds, threatening the lives of countless Outer Rim citizens. The Jedi heroically save as many people as they can under the leadership of Avar Kriss, who becomes a symbol of hope. The debris is eventually contained, and the event becomes known as the Great Disaster. In the midst of the chaos, Markion launches several raids on other Outer Rim worlds. Jedi Master Loden Greatstorm and his Padawan Bel Zettifar respond to one of the attacks, saving a family, but Loden is captured and presumed dead. Porter Ingle comes out of retirement to fight against the Nile. A group of Padawans under the tutelage of Yoda and a Jedi Master named Torben Buck stop a Nihil attack on the planet Trimant 4, home to the few surviving members of the Path of the Open Hand. There, the Jedi discover and take in a young Force-sensitive girl named Zine who's been keeping her abilities a secret. Her apparent betrayal leads her best friend, Crix, to join the Nihil. Marchion also abducts an Elder of the Path named Tromac, who leads Ro to his ancestors' long-lost weapon, the Leveler. Armed with the Control Rod, he plans to use the creature against the Jedi. Suspecting the Nameless from Dalna have returned, Yoda begins investigating the creature on his own. A young Jedi Knight named Vernestra Ro joins Jedi Master Douglas Sunvale and his Padawan Imri Kantaros in the protection of Avon Staros, a young crystal researcher and daughter of prominent Senator Gira Staros. The Nihil bomb their transport, killing Master Sunvale and stranding the young team on a nearby deadly planet until they can be rescued. Imri briefly falls to the dark side, seeking revenge against the Nihil, but Vernestra pulls him back to the light. Zine grows close with one of the Padawans that saved her from Trimant 4, Lula Talisola. They bond while they track down Crix, who rises through the ranks of the Nihil. Hyperlanes are temporarily closed for safety, which strands Orla Jarini, Comac Vitus, Padawan Reeth Silas, and a few other Jedi on an ancient space station. Several civilians also find themselves trapped, including Affie Hollow, Leox Gassi, and Geode, who all crew a ship called the Vessel. On the space station, they discover several statues imbued with the dark side. When it's safe, they remove the statues for safekeeping at the Jedi Temple, realizing too late that they were actually keeping a larger threat in stasis. The removal of the statues causes the awakening of carnivorous dark side plants called the Dringir. The Nihil ally themselves with the creatures, spreading their spores across the Outer Rim to keep the Jedi occupied and distracted. Reeth's master is killed during the Nihil attacks, and he becomes the apprentice of Comac. Avar Kriss and her childhood friend, the Jedi Elzar Mann, lead the fight against the Nihil, culminating in a large battle. The Nihil are thought to be beaten, but Marchion Ro and the rest of his forces continue to operate in secret. The Dringir spread to the planet Banshee, mysteriously turning the villagers there to wood. The Jedi Knight Lily Tora Asi works with the people to fight off the Dringir and the Nihil. Ty Yorick works as a monster-hunting saber for hire. On a job, she begrudgingly takes on a partner, a Force-sensitive named Druin. A Wookiee Padawan named Buryaga works with a group of Jedi younglings to help them face their fears and find that each of them are brave. Avar Kriss, Keeve Trennis, and several other Jedi attempt to stop the Dringir as they prey upon innocent settlers. The plants invade and damage Nal Hutta, the headquarters of the Hutt cartel, leading to a tenuous alliance between the gangsters and the Jedi. With their combined efforts, they track down the Dringir homeworld, and the Great Progenitor is captured and put in stasis on board Starlight Beacon, causing the rest of the Dringir to fall back into a deep slumber. Chancellor So holds a Republic fair on the planet Valo, inviting citizens across the Outer Rim to share their cultures with one another. The Nihil return to mount a massive strike on the fair. Although the Jedi fight bravely, the attack is devastating. A state-of-the-art science vessel called the Innovator is scuttled and sinks to the bottom of Lake Lanisa on the planet. Lina So is gravely injured, losing one of her legs in the battle. Avar and Elzar's friend, Stellan Gios, is broadcast across the galaxy as a hero, defending the leader of the Republic single-handedly. Ty Yorick joins the fight alongside her former peers. A mechanically gifted Padawan named Ram Jomaram works with Zine and Lula to repair a damaged communications tower, which helps the Jedi take control of the battle and send the Nihil into retreat. The Jedi track the Nihil back to their base, launching a counter-assault where Loden Greatstorm happens to be held. He is rescued by Bell, but Marchion unleashes the Leveler against the Jedi, which turns the Jedi Master to dust. Marchion and the rest of the Nihil flee in the confusion. A Jedi investigator named Emmerich Kaftor joins forces with a private eye named Sean Holt to learn more about Loden's death. Vernestra, Imri, and Reeth team up to investigate reports of a new Nihil weapon called the Gravity's Heart that can disrupt the use of hyperspace. They team up with a civilian crew of Jordana Sparkburn and Silvestri Yarrow. Silvestri learns that her mother, Chansey, developed the technology for the Nihil. Vernestra and Imri discover the weapon where they meet Mari Santeca, who gives the Jedi one final hyperspace path before dying. The Republic then destroys the Gravity's Heart. Zine, Lula, Ram, and their friends fight the Nihil alongside Maz Kanata and Sav Malagon, who is now a Jedi Master on Takodana. One of Marchion Ro's top lieutenants, Lorna D, is captured by the Republic. They mistakenly come to believe that she is the leader of the Nihil and pursue her across the galaxy when she escapes custody. The Jedi Master Avar Kriss becomes obsessed with her arrest. She sends Keeve Trinnis undercover within Nile ranks to find Dee, but she is exposed to the Leveler, which nearly kills her. Skier begins losing his mind and connection to the Force thanks to a condition called Magrak syndrome. He gives in to dark and aggressive feelings, and Avar takes his lightsaber from him. Meanwhile, Marchion Ro sacrifices the lives of many of his soldiers to rediscover Planet X, where he is able to capture more of the nameless creatures. Avon Staros is kidnapped by the Nile and brought to Dalna. She is forced to use her knowledge of crystals to help engineer a natural disaster to distract the Jedi from a larger attack. She attempts to sabotage their efforts until she is saved by Vernestra, but the planet still suffers catastrophic damage. The Republic uses a luxury starliner called the Halcyon to tow Starlight Beacon through hyperspace to Dalna to offer relief. Lula is given command of a mission to the planet Dalhar Hyde, where she, Zine, and the other Padawans successfully capture Crix. They return to Starlight Beacon, where Lula is offered knighthood, but her developing romance with Zine prevents her from accepting. After a long hunt for Lorna Dee, Avar Kriss nearly kills the Nile captain, but is pulled back from the brink of darkness by Keeve. They capture Lorna and take her back to Starlight Beacon for questioning. A Nile scientist named Dr. Uttersond attempts to sell one of the nameless creatures on the black market, but he is caught by Emmerich and Shan. He explains that they are called the Shriekeray, which translates to Eaters of the Force. With this new information, they also head to Starlight Beacon. The space station travels from system to system in the Outer Rim, offering aid from more attacks. A team of Nile, including Chancey Yarrow, are able to sneak aboard with the countless refugees, where they release several Shriekeray. As Orla Jarini and more Jedi fall victim to their attacks, the Nile also sabotage Starlight Beacon so that it begins falling toward the planet below, Irem. Chancey has a change of heart and attempts to fix the station, but Elzar mistakes her intentions and kills the woman, dooming all on board. Avar, Keeve, the crew of the vessel, Emmerich, and Shan all dock with the falling station, rescuing as many people as they can, as well as recovering samples of one of the Eaters of the Force. Lorna Dee takes the chance to escape once again. Crix also escapes his cell, but is confronted by Lula, both remaining trapped on the station. Many other Jedi, including Skier, Torben, Emery, and Buryaga, are lost or presumed dead in the disaster, and Stellan Gios sacrifices his life to ensure Starlight Beacon does not crash into any of Irem's cities. Elzar is filled with guilt and grief at the loss of his friend. On Corellia, Reeth and Ram team up with a bodyguard named Crash Ongwa to thwart Nile agents attempting to steal Corellian ships so they can attack any reinforcements sent to the remains of the doomed space station. When Comac hears of Orla's death, he elevates Reeth to the rank of knight and walks away from the Jedi Order. Marchion launches an attack on Banshee's Jedi Temple, which secretly holds the journal of Aslan Rel and all of his knowledge about the Nameless. Lily Tora Asi destroys the temple rather than allow the Nile to find what they seek. The Jedi Order is recalled from the Outer Rim back to Coruscant to assess the growing danger of the Nile and the Shriekeray. In their absence, Marchion sets up a network of devices called Storm Seeds, created from the research done on the Gravity's Heart. These new inventions destroy any ship attempting to enter Nile territory through hyperspace without the proper codes. Within the occlusion zone, scav droids destroy any vessel flying at sublight speeds. Marchion announces his intent to take control of whatever piece of the galaxy he pleases, having proven that neither the Republic nor the Jedi can stop him. Avar Kriss, Ram Jomaram, and several other Jedi who defied the recall to Coruscant are stuck behind the storm wall in enemy territory. Bel Zettifar remains on Irem to search for survivors of Starlight Beacon. He saves the life of Buryaga, who is stranded in an underwater cave. Lula wakes up on Irem with amnesia and goes missing. Crix is once again arrested by the Republic. Elzar works to create a device to help him communicate with Avar through the Force, sparking hope in her when she needs it most. A deranged scientist and former member of the Path of the Open Hand named Baron Bulin begins experimenting on the Nameless, enhancing them in various ways. He also captures and experiments on Force-sensitive beings, infecting them with nameless blood, turning them into what he calls the Children of the Storm. Vice aligns herself with the Nile and offers her services as a general to Marchion. The Jedi Council activates the Guardian Protocols in response to Marchion Ro's aggression. These rules accelerate combat training for younglings, promote Padawans at an earlier age, and generally prioritize combating the Nile above all other Jedi duties. The Republic works closely with the Jedi to find a way to break through the Stormwall. Yoda returns from his investigation with Aslan Rel, who has lived long past his natural lifespan after falling to the dark side. He manipulates the destruction of a ship and a city to hide any trace back to the homeworld of the Nameless, fearing the creatures above all else. The Jedi imprison him and assign Reeth Silas to continue interrogating the man to learn more. Valo falls under Nile control. Behind the storm wall, Ram Jomaram fights back as a vigilante hero and takes 3 Jedi younglings named Gavi, Tep, and Kildo under his wing. Together they travel to the bottom of Lake Lanisa, retrieving the Innovator and its bounty of medical supplies before it can fall into Nile hands. Zine finds Lula after a year of separation and helps restore the memories she lost. Lula decides to leave the Jedi Order, but continues to fight alongside the Republic. The Nile plan to test one of their enhanced Nameless on a prison ship full of captured Jedi. Zine and Lula join Republic and Jedi forces in a rescue attempt and save many of their friends, including Master Torban Buck. Meanwhile, Crash Ongwa infiltrates a Republic prison planning to assassinate Crix. Instead, she breaks him out when she learns he hopes to betray and murder Marchion Ro. He dies in a failed assassination attempt shortly after. Gira Staros joins the Nile and begins bad faith negotiations with the Republic to be recognized as a sovereign territory of space. When they are rejected, Marchion broadcasts the execution of a Jedi Grand Master at the hands of a Nameless and expands the storm wall, greatly increasing the size of the occlusion zone. From behind enemy lines, Avar Kriss steals a Nile ship and is able to pilot back into Republic territory. Porter Ingle attempts to hunt down and destroy Vice, but she escapes his clutches yet again. Zine, Lula, and their friends are on the planet Eriadu when the storm wall expands, trapping them in Nile territory. Ram calls upon them as reinforcements, and they successfully liberate Valo, but their enemies set their sights on Eriadu. Vernestra Rhodes, Jordana Sparkburn, and Sylvestre Yarrow kidnap a Nile dignitary who actually aids them in crossing into the occlusion zone. There they discover a terrible blight that appears to petrify entire worlds. Vernestra finds Emery protecting citizens trapped behind the storm wall. Relieved at his survival and proud of his actions, she promotes him to the rank of Jedi Knight. Dissenters within the Nile aid Vernestra and her friends, and they are able to begin smuggling people back into Republic territory, including Avon Staros. Ashamed of her mother, she changes her name to Avon Sunvale and begins researching more ways to get through the storm wall. Ty Yorick thwarts the kidnapping of a young Force-sensitive girl named Lene Castana, and Druin rescues Chancellor Lina So's son from assassination. They are delivered back to Coruscant, and Lene is taken into the Jedi Order. The Dringir and their victims reawaken on Banshee, urging the Jedi to help them escape the coming blight. Reeth and Aslan travel there to recover Rel's journal when the Nile strike once again, bringing a Nameless with them. Aslan uses the Force to disintegrate the creature. Baron Bulin attempts to kidnap a Jedi youngling during the battle, but Rel saves her. Keeve Trennis fights the Nile on the edge of the occlusion zone until she learns that her master, Skier, is stuck behind the storm wall. She steals a Nile ship and heads into enemy territory to rescue him. With the surprising help of Lorna Dee, they not only successfully rescue Skier and a handful of other Jedi, but they also capture Baron Bulin. Lorna begins to work directly with the Jedi and the Republic as a mercenary alongside Tay, who has begun using the Hand of Cyberus again after his husband's death. Skier's Magrak syndrome is healed. Avar Kriss promotes Keeve to the rank of Marshal of the Defense Fleet against her will, but she takes the position and commands Jedi forces fighting in and around the occlusion zone. Both the Jedi and the Nile investigate the mysterious blight. Marchion learns that the ancient rods that control the Nameless also give him immunity to this new sickness, and proclaims that only he can save the galaxy from this threat. Avar and Elzar fall in love, and the strength of their personal connection enhances their strength in the Force. Reeth Silas begins his own research into the Blight with the enigmatic help of Aslan Rel, and discovers that it's already begun spreading on Coruscant underneath the Jedi Temple. The Jedi use the Force to hold the Blight at bay. Comac returns to the Jedi and mends his relationship with Reeth. Together they learn of an ancient culture called the Ptolemites who encountered Planet X and the Nameless tens of thousands of years earlier. Reeth's discoveries teach him about the Echo Stones and the 3 control rods that had been created long ago. He, Comac, and the crew of the vessel investigate old legends surrounding the Echo Stones in hopes of finding another control rod, and they eventually recover the Rod of Ages on the planet Verovia. Having long since abandoned their truce with the Jedi, the Hutt cartel seeks more information about the Nameless. A young Hutt named Churro finds himself in possession of a Nameless egg, but after befriending Tep and Kildo and witnessing the horrible power of a fully grown Nameless, he betrays his family to save his friends. With the help of the Republic Defense Coalition, the team is able to capture 3 Shriekeray on board the Innovator and take them back to Coruscant for study. Tep and Kildo then travel to Irem to aid in relief efforts. There they discover citizens mysteriously vanishing. The Jedi learn that the Great Progenitor has survived the destruction of Starlight Beacon and lives in the wreckage at the bottom of the ocean world. The awakened Dringir appear to be desperate to flee the spreading blight. Tep-Tep offers the creatures the use of the Innovator to escape if they agree to leave the people of Irem in peace. Yoda investigates the Nameless further and falls into a Nile trap. He uses the Force to connect with the Shrieker, realizing they simply long for home. The Jedi begin a stronger effort to capture instead of kill the deadly creatures. The Dringir and the Blight come to Kashyyyk, the homeworld of the Wookiees. Reeth, Aslan, and the crew of the vessel travel there to investigate, finding an ancient tree grove that is immensely powerful in the Force. They are weakened by an old Sith relic called a Thorn Seed. Geode sacrifices himself to destroy it, and the ancient trees heal their world of the Blight and fill the Dringir with the light side of the Force, apparently pacifying them for good. Keeve leads Republic forces in the liberation of the planet Naboo. Marchion Ro sets his sights on Eriadu, where Zeen, Lula, and their friends have been leading a resistance with the Tarkin family. Nearly all Nile forces are sent there under the command of General Weiss. Lula and Zeen get married just before the Battle of Eriadu begins. Imri Kantaros teams up with the Republic Defense Coalition, Tep-Tep, and Churro the Hutt, who reignites cooperation between the Jedi and the Hutt cartel. Together, they destroy many of the scav droids that plagued the Occlusion Zone. Imri decides to take Tep-Tep as his Padawan. The Jedi hatch a plan to return about a dozen captured Shrieker back to their homeworld using the path given to Vernestra Rho by Mari San Tekka. The team includes Avar Kriss, Elzar Mann, Bel Zettifar, Buryaga, Torben Buck, Ty Yorick, Reeth Silas, Aslan Rel, and more. When they reach Planet X, they're met by Marchion Ro, who chooses this moment to destroy the storm wall. Nile forces retreat from Naboo, and Keeve realizes the storm wall has fallen, allowing Republic forces to move through the Occlusion Zone at will. In space, the Jedi fall under the attack of a new weapon called the Fear Engine, which causes terrifying hallucinations. Tay sees visions of Vildar and gives up the Hand of Cyberus for good. Keeve sees through the lies of the illusions, and Lorna D destroys their source. Porter Ingle single-handedly leads an assault on Weiss's ship and finally destroys her. Keeve puts out a call for help, and the oppressed captives of the Occlusion Zone rise up to fight the Nile. Ground forces led by the Tarkins, Lula, Zeen, Sav, Emmerich, and Shan successfully liberate Eriadu. Girastaros surrenders to the Republic in Marchion's absence. On Planet X, Marchion announces his plan to end all life in the galaxy, having learned that each death of the Shrieker accelerates the spread of the Blight. He uses his control rod to command the Nameless to kill the Jedi and each other. Torben Buck dies attempting to save the creatures. Aslan Rel flees in terror with the Rod of Ages. Reeth and Ty track him down and together use the rod to overcome Marchion's influence on the Nameless. They collapse, but Aslan disappears. He finds the ship and lightsaber of Barnabas Vim, escapes the planet, and bleeds the crystal, turning the lightsaber red. Bel and Buryaga follow Marchion and defeat him in battle, but allow him to live. Avar and Elzar explore the planet and discover only a few surviving Shrieker protecting a clutch of eggs. The beings explain that the planet is a vergence in the Force that hungers when it falls out of balance. The Shrieker consume the light or dark whenever one side tips the scales, but their numbers have greatly dwindled since the rise of Marchion Ro, and so the Blight has begun to spread and will soon devour the entire galaxy. It will be decades before new Shrieker can be hatched, so Avar and Elzar decide to remain on Planet X, which is really called a Sophros. They vow to keep the world in balance for the rest of their lives. The Blight is healed and retreats from the rest of the galaxy. The other Jedi return home with Marchion Ro as their prisoner. He is sentenced to banishment in a hidden prison staffed by droids. He dies alone, forgotten, and powerless many years later. And so the galaxy heals. Reeth decides to find Aslan Rel. Lorna D uses the credits she has earned as a mercenary to help rebuild the planet Dulna. A feast is held there where Keeve Trinnis decides to walk away from the Jedi Order, fearing that the experiences of the past few years have forever changed the Republic and the Jedi, believing that a worse threat could spell their doom. And that brings us to the end of the High Republic Publishing Initiative. Over 4 years of storytelling, 25 books, 139 comic issues, 22 short stories, 6 mangas, and 5 audio dramas. This video is obviously more of a summary of events I hope will serve as a refresher for people who've been experiencing this massive story. I didn't hit every comic issue or every character, but I think I got the biggest arcs and moments from the entire initiative. Still, this isn't a full replacement for the actual books and comics. If you've never read any of the High Republic, but this sparked your interest, start with the novel Light of the Jedi and go from there. It is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars books. But that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and for light and life.